Yeah. So you were referred to me by a really great buddy of mine. And I called him and I said, hey, I need to find a fellow nerd who wants to talk about real estate and the effects of economic developments at large in Utah, namely the Wasatch Front, and what that means for homebuyers. And I couldn't even finish my request, and he said your name. Nick Gonzalez is the guy, and he has a lot of love for you. And so I'm excited to have you on because this is stuff that I get excited about, and I try to wrap my head around and understand, but it's a very deep topic, and not a lot of people understand it, and it sounds like you understand it like the best of them. So for everybody listening, this is Jack Andrews with Edge Homes, and we're grateful to have him because I've heard him speak several times. He's a great speaker, but he's got a very intelligent mind, knows so much about real estate, has been in the industry for many years, and I think you'll find a lot of great information from him as we just kind of riff on what's coming and what it means for real estate in Utah. So, Jack, again, thank you for joining us.
So let's dive in. Are there any things that you want to talk about? Economic development, taxes, land, trends?
You know, I figured you would have deeper hooks into some of these topics than I had on the surface level. In my mind, what I have continually brought to the forefront, and I took some notes here for my clients, and as I'm even considering my own personal real estate investments and things, is just the size and stature of economic developments along the Wasatch Front and how significant that is, but it's kind of like sneakily significant because these are multi-year or multi-decade projects that it's like a slow bleed, but slow but sure, it creates more and more affordability issues or more and more lost opportunity for people that don't capitalize now. So I'm looking at things like the inland port, the Point, Texas Instruments, has their huge facility now. What does that mean? We've got data centers coming up kind of just on the Southwest
Google
area.
Out in Eagle Mountain, yeah.
Yeah. Nova, the Front Runner Project, all these things. So I just kind of want to dive in to that. And I think you bring up a good point. How does this impact, I guess, maybe taxes? Is that property taxes you're referring to? Is that income taxes you're referring to? So I just kind of want to unpack what all this means.
Sure. A number of thoughts there. Let's start with one that you didn't mention, the Salt Lake International Airport. Voted one of the country's best, if not the best. And it was redesigned to follow, for instance, the design of Hartsfield-Jackson Airport in Atlanta or Denver International Airport, where you can expand infinitely. Like right now, you don't have underground trams that head between terminals, okay? But the Salt Lake International Airport is built for ultimate expandability. I think that's a fantastic dynamic. And what you're going to see, what that's going to add is even more of an international influence and significance to Salt Lake. Couple that with the inland port, which will be the largest economic development in the history of the state of Utah. And a lot of people don't understand what an inland port is. Think of an inland port as, take Long Beach, California, for instance, where you're offloading all of this material for distribution and move that inland. Okay, so now it becomes an absolutely massive distribution hub to the western United States and all over the country, probably everything west of the Mississippi and even towards the coasts. But what that brings is economic development. It brings massive need for infrastructure. It has brought already, I think we're at Amazon distribution centers 6+ and counting.
Wow.
Growing all the time. Yes, in Utah.
Holy cow. You know what's funny that I think about, and I wonder if you have an opinion on this. So they built their first distribution center over by the inland port well in advance of the inland port being publicly announced. Was that just inside knowledge or or was that a line?
There are so many influences. I mean, we talk about data centers. Facebook bought years ago 350 acres to put a data center out there. Not just a data center, they then announced 7 more buildings and increased operations out there.
Now let me ask you, do they announce that? Are those underway yet or are those to come?
Oh, those are, drive out to the campus, you'll see they're largely operational.
Okay, got it. Okay.
And they negotiated with former Governor Herbert and his team a fantastic deal that was a win-win. Their job was to bring infrastructure out to Eagle Mountain, to the Cedar Fort Valley. And what you see is you need water out there, you need fiber and data and internet, and you also need infrastructure because you're kind of at a choke point. SR 73 on the north side of some Saratoga Springs developments that feed out to Eagle Mountain, and then Pony Express Parkway.
That's even been
south.
delays in some of Edge Homes projects, right? Out in
sure.
Eagle Mountain is some of this infrastructure choke point.
Yeah.
I've heard that's a big issue for lots of builders out there.
Yeah, well, and builders, oddly enough, need land.
Right.
So yeah, infrastructure becomes a major issue. So too does location. I mean, just because you have houses in a certain place doesn't mean that that's an ideal place to build. And so that's one of the benefits that I have seen of Edge Homes is absolute prime locations. Our Saratoga stuff is east of the choke point largely, or forward thinking, knowing what's coming. And so we put it in good locations.
Because you recognize this data center is expanding and there's going to be need for housing or other projects similar. That's what you're talking about.
Sure.
You guys are just strategically locating developments, kind of following these announcements.
Sure. Yeah, that's an absolute part of it. That's being involved with city councils. That's being involved in UCAR and real estate leadership. That is being forward-thinking, knowledgeable, involved, and it is all a consideration, for instance, in our land acquisition. The other thing with builders, it's interesting that land acquisition, you make your money on the buy, meaning that you have to be extraordinarily disciplined in your acquisition of land. Because let's say that you pay hundreds of millions of dollars for a piece of dirt and then market changes and you have purchased all of that dirt in a single takedown. Well, your carry costs over time, if you don't have an absorption rate enough to slough that land and be paid on it, you lose all of your profit in the churn.
Right.
Over time. So again, to Edge Homes has been extraordinarily disciplined in their acquisition of land. Could they buy more? Sure, absolutely.
Right.
But that doesn't make sense because that threatens the entire enterprise, and then frankly, that threatens the state.
Right.
As far as a housing shortage, you have to be able to afford and carry forward the costs. And then you get into situations, people talk about prices going up. Well, why do prices go up? Very often it's because the cost of land goes up.
Right.
So don't get all ticked off and call big bad builder because if we don't raise our prices equal to the cost of the land that we have to acquire, how do we replace what we're selling?
Right. The momentum's gone, and then we have an even worse housing issue.
Right.
Right.
The other issue becomes, and there's another way that you can collaboratively figure out the cost of land, and that is density.
Right.
Rather than having 4 lots per acre, you're now 14, 18, 21 lots per acre because the cost of land goes up. And that dynamic is going to continue in Utah specifically for this reason. What percentage would you guess of the land in Utah are we able to build on?
Percentage of all the land within Utah.
Best guess.
15%.
Close.
Okay.
It's about 12%.
Okay.
So we have roughly about 65 million acres in the state of Utah, and we can build on about 5,700 of them, 57 to 6,700 of them, which equates roughly to the size of the state of Massachusetts. Massachusetts on the East Coast, which is so freaking small that you have to put the letters in the ocean, okay, when you're reading a map. So you transpose and put the state of Massachusetts on Utah, and that's about the amount of land that we can build on. The rest of it is taken by everything from military to salt flats to mountains, which you can't build on the face of, to BLM land, to federally protected monument land, to reservations, and all of that. And so do people think that prices are going to increase in the state of Utah? And anybody who doesn't think that that's going to happen is, I think, in defiance of reality.
Right. I agree for sure. And it's crazy because real estate is not a sexy thing right now, and no one likes the idea of it, and it's not the conversation happening at family parties, and so it's slowed down so much. I mean, you guys obviously, and same with us, like we've maintained and been able to produce to keep business going, but it's certainly not what it should be, and it's very depressed in comparison to recent years, at least for us. And at some point, all these people sitting on the sidelines, not looking at this grander picture and in defiance of reality, are truly missing an opportunity, in my opinion.
Yeah, let's look at the grander picture. And I would draw for a comparison. If you're familiar with the interstates, you go I-5 down through California, I-15. So the interstates slice the nation from north to south.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. Odd numbered. So 5, then 15 is through Utah, 25 is through Colorado, 35 is through Missouri, 45, 55, all the way out to the East Coast. That's 95, I-95.
Yeah.
Similarly, you slice north to south. I-90, 80, 70, 60, 50. So I-90 up through Washington, I-80 through Utah and Wyoming, I-70 down through Colorado, I-60, and all the way down to I-10, which, would be like Shreveport, Louisiana, or whatever.
Got it. Okay.
And that was put in place by Eisenhower, who learned a lot logistically from the invasion of Germany and didn't want logistical choke points in the event of an invasion. Mm-hmm. That's why the interstate system was created. Anyway, history lesson aside, I-25 in Denver you have literally like a 12 to 15 mile stretch of that they call the Denver Tech Center. Okay. Yep. And you have seen growth absolutely explode for 25, 30 plus years, all up and down that Denver corridor. I did route sales for 3.5 years, all the way from Pueblo down south, Colorado Springs, Wheat Ridge, Arvada, Denver, up north to Fort Collins, east to Greeley, east up I-70 out to Edwards and Vale and those mountain communities, a la Park City, stuff like that. Yep. Absolute boom town.
And we're not even close to that growth, right?
We are starting that meteoric growth.
Yeah, we haven't we're just at the beginning.
Right.
Which is it's so hard to even comprehend.
But Denver has an advantage that we did not.
Okay.
Land.
Right.
They can build east to Kansas.
Right.
Okay? You build west and you hit salt flats.
Right.
And you got problems.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And you hit protected land and you have lakes north and south, the Great Salt Lake and Utah Lake, and you can't build on the face of a mountain. You can't build in an artillery testing range, and so all of that becomes compressed. And what you see as a dynamic, if you consider Salt Lake the center, as you go out from Salt Lake, the further you get, you are trading price for distance and density. Mm. Okay?
You mean less density the further out you get?
Correct. Okay. Yeah, so you're also trading price for distance.
Sure, right.
Okay, so Eagle Mountain, it's 35 minutes, 45 minutes, or an hour from, the Delta Center. Okay? But it's less expensive than if you only had 2 blocks to walk and you have a downtown apartment. I mean, you have townhomes in Park City that sell for $1 million plus.
Right.
Why can't we sell townhomes?
Or $2 million.
Sure.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Sure. Why can't we sell townhomes in the Point?
Right.
For $1 million or whatever.
Right.
And let's go to underlying principles. The average price per square foot in Utah is $235 a square foot.
Got it.
The average price in San Francisco proper is $2,600.
Oh my gosh, 10x.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you know that number for something more comparable to Utah, like Denver area or something? Do you know that?
No, easy to research though. Very easy to research. And San Francisco actually has come down. It's come down to about $1,000 a square foot when I last looked it up literally a month ago.
Wow.
And so at the height, that's part of what I think has spoiled the population. It's like, if I'm not making a 16% cap rate, I'm not gonna buy.
Forget
blah,
it.
blah,
Yeah.
blah. On my townhome, if I'm not making $100,000 of equity over the course of an 8-month build, this deal sucks.
Right.
Well, that's absurd.
Yeah.
Real estate is a long game in that, generally, let's go back to principles. Real estate appreciates about 4 to 6% annually.
Mm-hmm.
What that means, translation, out of the 5 streams of income that you make on a real estate property, capital appreciation is only one stream.
Yep.
Okay, and it's going to make 4 to 6% over time. Here's the way I equate it. I watch my lawn, and I sit on the front porch, and if I watch my lawn for 15 minutes or even a couple of hours, I don't see squat.
Mm-hmm.
But somehow on Saturday, that sucker's got to be mowed.
Right. Right. 100%.
And so that's what happens with real estate. It will continually and perpetually grow. And then you get into the discussion of cap rates. You get into discussion of cash flow. You get into discussions of principal or capital, principal pay down, principal reduction.
Amortization, yep.
Yeah. Somebody else paying your mortgage. You get into discussion of rental rates, which is a huge thing in Utah. And then people always forget absolute number one, biggest Benny, and the most dismissed or misunderstood or not taken advantage of is the tax benefits to real estate.
For sure.
And particularly in a state where your taxes aren't onerous. I've heard that California, for instance, is trying to, or has tried to, or has successfully implemented an excise tax. In essence, you sell your house and move out of state and you get hit with an excise tax.
Oh, wow.
The door does hit your butt on the way out.
So on like the capital gains, you get dinged more if you move out of the state.
Yeah.
No kidding.
And I am not an expert on that tax law, whether or not it's been implemented, but I certainly know that it's been proposed. Furthermore,
We should actually ask that.
Furthermore, I watched during the previous administration, they were proposing a tax on unrealized capital gains.
Yes. I heard that and people went, hey. I mean, could you imagine that? Like, every household would be bankrupt.
Yeah, and do I think it would pass? No, but these are the sorts of proposals. Look, you know that a government, state, local, federal, has to have an income, and some are more aggressively creative than others in creating a new income stream.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I mean, for instance, you get ticked off that if you get a tax refund, you have to report that as income and be taxed on that income. Yeah, that's just one of 1,000 examples of how the government will work in seeking to get tax income or streams of income. But big picture, and speaking fundamentally, real estate is and always will be the best investment in the game.
Yeah.
And in Utah, Governor Herbert said in one of his State of the Unions, he says, if Utah is a stock, I buy. Well, that's never not been true, even now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We've had the top influx of population over the last last decade.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
We've been number one in population influx. Idaho number 2. Other states, not far behind. The other misnomer that I hear all the time is that Utah is now the 3rd most expensive, place to buy real estate in the country.
Yeah.
Behind Hawaii and New York.
Got it.
And California and all of that. I'm like, yeah, we're 3rd, but there's like 18 states within $10,000 of us.
Oh, right. So it's not. It's like you look at any chart of leaders. The top 3 are miles different than everyone below them.
Yeah, and in this case, New York, Hawaii are significantly higher.
Yep.
And then we're right there in the mix with 18 to 20 states.
Just kind of in the middle ground. And the crazy thing with Utah is we have great property taxes. So it's like price is one thing, but you look at some of these other states, property taxes are outrageous. Great
to note that, because we in new construction, I have seen buyers fleeing from generally 9 states, and I won't name them because I'm not trying to drag them through the mud, but you could probably make some guesses, some educated guesses. And it is because of onerous, absolutely oppressive, suffocating tax policy.
Yeah.
It's the same reason why businesses are flowing to Utah. Ronald Reagan back in the day made the distinction. He says, imagine you have 2 farm fields. One has rich loam, little regulation, whatever. You can go in, you can toil, you can till the dirt, and you can plant, and you can manage your crop, and you can realize a harvest. The other field also has rich loam, but the first thing they do is they spray pre-emergent chemicals on it to prevent anything from germinating. Then, if you plant anything that happens to grow, they suffocate, they overwater. Okay? Third, if you realize any sort of harvest, or it survives the water, okay, they spray herbicide on it to kill it. Which field do you plant in?
Right.
It should be manifestly obvious that you take the first one.
Yeah, 100%.
And so whenever I hear government of either party saying, oh, you're offshoring your jobs, you're this, you're that, people are leaving the country and doing business elsewhere. Why is that?
Right.
It's because you have created the conditions of field number 2.
For sure. Yeah. You got to look in, be accountable to the actions that are being taken, as opposed to so much of it. And that's what does suck from a political standpoint, is there's so much finger pointing as opposed to just objective reasoning as to what's happening and making those decisions. But
well, there's fingers on the scales, and there's special interests involved, and there's conditions and context that no one party is privy to all of it.
Sure, right. Yeah.
And I'll give you an example. I loved the economic development of Utah under Governor Herbert when he talked about having a steady hand on the till and enticing businesses to come to Utah. Case in point, you look at the Facebook complex, which was massive. One of the collaborative things that brought them here was the fact that in return for $150 million of public investment to improve infrastructure, water, road, and internet out there, they received 20 to 25 years, as I recall, of no property taxes.
Oh, wow.
Now, that was a win-win.
Yeah, it's financing for the state that gets immediate infrastructure that is otherwise not affordable.
Yeah. 100%. And so you see similar things, like, for instance, when Adobe doubled their operations, they did it initially 150,000 square feet in their facility and then expanded by another 160,000 square feet. And then San Jose facility becomes more token. Yes, it's their world headquarters, but it was more token because their operations were expanding elsewhere.
Right.
Why? Lower taxes for employees,
Well, it's crazy because, remember, this was a while ago, but remember Goldman, they have a huge presence here now.
Oh, yeah.
And they took it from New York City, and I did lots of loans. When that big thing happened, I did loans for a lot of the executives moving. The executives, like SVPs, getting salary decreases to move here, and they were glad to do it. So they moved from New York, their family moved to Utah, their salary goes down, they got promotions, and their salary went down for that exact reason, which is nuts.
Sure, salary goes down, but cost of living went down as well, and quality of life goes up, and taxes are reduced. Sure, you net more. My dad, prior to retirement, I'll never forget it because of the word he used, but prior to retirement, when he was going to get Social Security and coupled with other funds and things, he says, well, if Social Security is fixed, then it behooves me to move where the cost of living is the lowest.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
If it's just fixed, it's like, hey, man, let's go elsewhere. We were living in Connecticut at the time. I was born and raised in Connecticut, the most expensive county in the country at one point, Fairfield County.
And it's still super ridiculously expensive in
Oh,
Connecticut.
yeah. I used to mow David Letterman's lawn.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
We almost hit him in a truck one day. That was not real cool. But anyway, I gouged the hell out of his lawn, too. Apparently, he claimed that on his show. I never saw it, but my boss said, yeah, David Letterman called you out and said, my new lawn boy scalped the hell out of my lawn yesterday. So
awesome.
there's my claim to
Yeah, there's your
infamy
few,
instead of fame. So, but yeah, if you can absorb the taxes as an ultra in the ultra wealthy and stuff like that, then there's a price to be paid for that. But for the general public, for investment, for investors, Utah is, find me a better place in the world. I would argue it.
Right. For sure. And I'm looking at things like, we've talked about this. So I'm going to just go through this whole list of because I was making notes this morning. So we talked about the Point. That's a big one. That's what I'm excited about because I live in Draper and I'm like, things going to.
Multi-billion-dollar investment, master planned, massive commercial, residential, density, walkable, all of those sorts of things. The Point is going to be incredible.
Community entertainment, like it's going to be
incredible.
Awesome. That's huge. You mentioned the inland port. That was, gosh dang it, I have some notes here, but I'll go through this and then I'll get to some notes. Texas Instruments, we talked about that. That's a huge
expanding their campus over there off of Timpanogos Highway.
Yep. Kind of central. I mean, that just triangulates basically that whole area, that southern end of the valley. It's crazy because you got the Point and you got that and you have the data centers. It's like, it's insane growth.
Yeah.
That's Eagle Mountain, Nova Data Center in West Jordan.
Yep.
So that expansion's huge and just beginning. The Front Runner coming. I mean, that's what's cool is they are seeming to plan so much mass transit in preparation for what you mentioned, which is the certainty for density. The housing's going to be far more dense, which means your cost per square foot goes up. I mean, that's really what's going to happen and create such an opportunity for people that decide to buy now as that trend matures, right?
Yeah, so you have a number of things there. If people are familiar, UDOT, MAG, Mountain Land Association of Governments, UTA, others, they're constantly collaborating, city planners, all of that, and they are looking at 2050. They actually have a plan that you can download. It's like a 60-page PDF or more called Transplan 2050 or Transplan 50. It stands for Transportation Plan 2050, which is a collaboration of everything from mass transit to infrastructure expansion of arterials and east-west crossings and all of that. I'll give you a couple of observations from that. We talk about South County, going from Provo to, say, Payson. Currently, that's 18 minutes. Well, if we don't expand infrastructure and plan for it, it would be an hour and 18 minutes by 2050 to go from Provo to
Just
Payson.
because of population growth?
Correct.
Wow.
Just absurdity.
It's kind of what we're dealing with, like going from Harriman to Salt Lake.
Oh, sure. And
they're behind the scales on that.
You can't keep ahead of it. And furthermore, people say, well, why don't we just build it? Because you need tax
revenue
income in order to pay for the infrastructure expansion. You can't just drop it all and build it all. That's like Alaska, a bridge to nowhere.
Right.
Or maybe a bridge to a future somewhere, but
Yeah.
we pick up the bill in the meantime.
And we don't have all the oil, so.
Right, and you don't have the infrastructure out there. So somebody goes out to the bridge to somewhere, and they plant a house there. Are they on propane?
Right.
Where
are they going to shop? Like, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I literally heard of developers, and I don't know if this is true or not. This is anecdotal, but I heard of developers that were in a kind of a Spanish Fork area that purchased a bunch of land, and they're like, oh, yeah, man, it's a no-brainer. Look at the location. It's fantastic. It's this, it's that. And so they write a check, pay for it in one takedown, and then discover.
Does your home and auto insurance seem to go up every year without fail? Mine did too. I thought this was just the way the insurance industry worked until I found my friend Alan Johnson with American Family Insurance. After more than 15 years with the same insurance agent, he saved me over $3,000 per year when I switched. I refer all my family, friends, and clients to him, and their experience is similar. Great rates and a great experience. Call Alan for a free quote today at 801-708-2962.
That it's not on the grid.
Oh, wow.
That it's on propane. And so there goes $1.8 million to develop their parcel to extend the grid to their property.
Oh my
there
gosh.
goes all their profit. And my understanding is that they made the profit on the last 2 houses in the development.
Oh.
They churned through 40 acres of development.
And probably a decade.
Oh,
Was it not that
absorption
long?
was pretty crazy.
Was it
at the
good?
time.
Okay, good.
But, they're like, it's a no-brainer. Well, yeah, apparently it was.
Right. That's crazy.
So there's so many considerations because you cannot outbuild infrastructure. It is not wise. You will have the carry costs, and again, it threatens the entire enterprise. One bad investment like that, and you're belly up.
For sure. Talking about infrastructure, this is interesting. It's brand new. I just recently heard of it. The Stadler Rail expansion.
Haven't heard a thing about it.
So this is a new rail expansion. I can't remember the railway that has basically had Utah owned. Like they no railways could come here, and I think this is part of the inland port to give more expansions to more railways to utilize the rails. So they're essentially leasing. There's an expansion. $190 million capital investment, 250 more jobs to help with the distribution of bringing another. It's what's the big railway that comes in now that you see it off the freeway?
Oh, Union Pacific.
Union Pacific. So this is now another effectively a competitor of theirs that it's been passed.
Well, we need it, and railway is going to be, I think, an innovation or a potential innovation of the future if you do it right. I mean, of course, rich in Utah history is the Golden Spike,
right?
Right. Where we united East and West railways. So that's always been a major issue, and it helps us to move coal. It helps us to move oil shale or the shale that we're trying to generate more oil shale. It helps to move agra. It helps to move a lot of things. And that's why the inland port and specifically Utah has become such a stake in the ground, if you will, of import as it relates, or importance as it relates to distribution nationwide.
Which is crazy because that's what I was saying in the beginning. So many people, and who I want to hear this, are like our clients, right? Because we're lucky to be in our industry and to have access to all of this news and all this data and all this information. And we can kind of, because of what we do for professions, we can draw the line, right? And understand what this means for investment and opportunity in our respective fields. So many of our clients don't understand this. And the crazy thing is it's such a slow bleed. Like Facebook, it's done, it's built. Texas Instruments, it has a huge facility. People aren't recognizing the downstream effects of this. And then you layer on all these huge projects. With the biggest projects, you said, like the Inland Port and the Point, as I understand it, are two of the biggest projects, or I think the two biggest projects in Utah's history.
Yes. Well,
and it's like, my goodness.
And you talk about the downstream effect. That makes my mind think of a historical book that was mentioned to me the other day, basically The Secret to America's Prosperity. And I had never considered this before, and it's something I'd like to explore further. But they said the United States has a secret power as it relates to economic prosperity. Any thoughts? Any guesses?
The American spirit? I don't know. Just innovation?
I will say absolutely number one, that the American spirit. But this author was guessing that, or positing that it was America's waterways.
Oh, really?
They said, you have no idea how much commerce goes up and down the Mississippi, the mighty Missouri, the Ohio, the Allegheny, the Housatonic, the Green River, all these sorts of things.
Yeah.
And they talk about the power of America's waterways for commerce, okay? So think of, as we talk about rail, I think that will be the next steel waterway,
For sure.
if you will.
That's what it is, right? And it was dormant for decades.
Yeah.
And now we're bringing it back to life, which is nuts.
Yep. And with the improvements and with the safety and the capabilities and the high speed and all of those sorts of things, it opens up. This is the economy doing what Adams calls its creative destruction. Okay, AI brings and churns and knocks out all these things, and iPad gets rid of the old notepad company, and one industry absolutely extinguishes another. Okay, and the people that get extinguished are wailing, and the people that are doing the extinguishing are like dollars,
Right.
And I personally think, for instance, like AI.
Yep.
Okay, AI can create a video of me, can give an avatar of me, translate it to 175 languages, spit out my message to all of these people. I can reach so many more people, and I can do it so much quicker, and yada, yada, yada. And then what happens is everybody starts doing it, and you get into a sea of sameness, and it all circles back to the personal relationship, the knee to knee, the eye to eye, the heart to heart, the this person cares about me, the this person will go through a wall for me, they will take care of me, or I just like them.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. Human connection and what we do for a living will for sure change by virtue of AI.
Sure.
Will never go, it can't be replaced. It just
Sure.
can't. And the crazy thing is, what I've noticed is, like, even though AI videography, for example, is getting so advanced, the human eye, I can already, within the first couple seconds, know it's an AI video. Or you can hear an AI voice, even though it sounds so human-like. There's just no soul.
Tone, tenor, tempo, you can tell that it's not a person. Look, you can sense something is off when you have an interaction with a human being.
Right.
You can be like, something's just off. I don't put a finger on it. I can't put a finger on it. I don't judge it, but something's just off, man.
Yep.
Or my spidey sense is tingling.
For sure, right.
And so I think that personal connection, expertise, devotion, duty, competence, all of that. Look, Einstein warned, he says, I believe that if technology surpasses human connection and interaction, we will have raised idiots, We will have raised a nation of dolts.
Right.
And man, there are people out there who are absolutely tied to and crippled without devices.
Yeah.
And it's again, no judgment there.
Right.
They don't know any better.
And they don't even, the scary thing is, I feel like as I get older and I recognize certain patterns of life, people don't even recognize that there is there's no recognition that they are stuck that way. Sure. It's like it's totally absent of reality. Switching gears a little bit on AI, this is something exciting, and it kind of relates to these railways as I'm kind of just like thinking through this in my brain. So I can't remember what the type of AI this is, but essentially I think it relates heavily to the inland port and the railway system. AI, I think, is already operating this way, and it's obviously getting better and better and better every day. But it's got the capabilities for warehouses to be run completely on artificial intelligence, and all of the equipment and the picking of the inventory and all this stuff will happen by robots, essentially, and computers. But what will be happening is you're going to have a duplication of the actual physical warehouse in a digital form, and that digital form is going to be 24/7, 365, iterating all of the movements. So the forklift went here and it moved at this degrees. Well, if we change it by a half a degree, it's going to pick up X amount more efficiency, and we're going to be able to deliver goods this much faster. And the whole world is going to be iterated on digital replicas, essentially. So you think about the rail system and the improvements we can have there. And it's like, hey, if you were to, move this component here or move it by a couple of inches here, it can iterate those things like humans could never do, or it would take decades for us to figure that out.
Sure.
And the innovation is going to be light speed.
Yeah, you're talking about even an iteration in and of itself, in that the concept that you're describing is just an expansion of, for instance, Deming, who is, golly, there's a shrine to him in Toyota headquarters. Deming, I can't remember his first name, but he was the proponent and creator, if you will, of Six Sigma and just-in-time inventory. In other words, if a website takes you 7 clicks to get here, how can we get it to 5, to 4, to 3? Eliminate inefficiency and get you right to where you need to be in the fewest steps possible, without any errors, without any fluctuation. It's just an efficiency model. Okay?
Right.
So if AI then takes on, or becomes, in essence, if you will, a Deming disciple, and iterates that, then it's amazing. The challenge for all the worriers in the world is, have you ever been to a business where their pay system has gone down?
Right, yeah.
They're absolutely crippled.
So I agree. So it's going to require so much redundancy in network and infrastructure and different things for these companies. But to your point that I think you were making earlier is like, though we just identified an opportunity in the marketplace that doesn't currently exist but will exist, which is going to be a maintenance manager for the redundancy portion of a campus in the event that the internet went down, or this went down, or that went down. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I don't know, that's interesting.
Sure. Additionally, let's think about another thing that would directly impact Utah when people are claiming that these large data processing centers and AI centers are going to consume 10 times our current usage of electricity. Huh. Okay. Well, for the terror mongers, 10 times our current electricity would absolutely overwhelm the system. And so many of societies or people in general don't realize where electricity comes from. In Utah, a very, very large amount of our electricity comes from the lower Colorado Basin, which is basically a collaboration of 8 states. You've got Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, California, Nevada, and others, okay? And we receive a lot of the water runoff from the west face of the Rockies. That flows down into the southeast corner of the state, down into the Glen Canyon Dam, okay? Well, a couple of years ago when we had massive, massive drought, the Glen Canyon Dam almost became a dead pool, meaning if the turbines sit at this level and the water level is below the turbines, there ain't no water to run through the turbines to generate electricity.
Holy cow.
You have a dead pool. Okay? And we watched Lake Powell drop and all those things. This is why snowpack matters. This is why snowpack in Colorado matters. And we in Utah are kind of in a unique situation where we operate from the fountainhead of these waters. Think about Tucson, Arizona. Where do they get their water?
Right. Nowhere. There isn't
We're
water.
operating from a position of strength.
Right.
But if there's ever a civil war in this country, heck, forget about politics. It would be over natural resources.
Yeah.
How do we get
Well, I mean,
the water?
even wars in the world, it's argued that it's all about natural resources.
It is.
Yeah.
People got to drink.
Right.
And so water conservation, people are like, what's the Bureau of Reclamation? Well, the Bureau of Reclamation is to try and capture as much natural water, funnel it, use it wisely as we possibly can. That's what the Bureau of Reclamation is. It reclaims waters that come to us, and then we put it in reservoirs, we put it in flows, and all of these things are impacted by, for instance, a 10 times increase in electrical consumption by AI. How do we solve that problem? Well, we're going to need brilliant minds and brilliant solutions, and the economy is going to do its creative destruction, and we will figure it out.
Right, for sure. Yeah, we always do. It was I can't. Oh, you know what it was? You should. I think you'd enjoy this. Matthew McConaughey, Poems and Prayers. Have you seen his new book?
Have not.
You should get the audio. It's on Spotify. If you have Spotify, you can download it for free.
Better not be an AI reader. I'm just
kidding. No.
Because I love his voice.
It's his voice, dude, and it is like, you're like, no, he is so good at it's amazing, but it talks about what we're talking about now towards the end. It's a good one. So now the other thing, kind of reeling things back here, we have all these projects. I did some investigating with AI, Now, one thing we haven't mentioned, which is crazy, and we could probably close out with this, but we have the 2034 Winter Olympics. That was maybe the biggest catalyst for Utah ever, and we're getting it again in a decade when the inland port is going to be well underway and in motion. The Point project is going to be we're going to be we're already more attractive, and we're going to be even more attractive, and then we're going to have this international exposure with the airport too, which is impressive. In 2034, what that does for money and flow into Utah internationally is going to be insane. So I want to touch on that, but then I did some details here, and it said, so we didn't even mention this, just the defense complex improvements. So you got Northrop Grumman, you have Hill doing huge improvements, just that component, which has nothing to do with the Point, nothing to do with inland port, 173,000 jobs created over the next, I don't know, maybe let's call it a decade. $22 billion in GDP. In addition to that, the Olympics themselves is almost $4 billion in GDP that we are going to add to Utah. These things matter to Utah homeowners and investment in real estate in Utah. This, basically, it's okay, if you could say, with certainty, because there's billions of dollars invested into all this stuff already. These things are happening. It's not they could happen; they are happening. The steamroller is going, and nothing could really stop them. If you could say, "Hey, we know for sure the S&P 500 is going to be 10x its value in X number of years that it is today," it's a guarantee. I don't know what will happen in between, but I know for sure in 20 years it's going to be 10x its current value. Why would you not put 100% of your money into that basket? You would kind of be stupid if you didn't, if it was a guaranteed 10x return over that period of time. And we have this kind of I'm assimilating this as the opportunity in real estate in Utah. There's basically a certainty it's going to go up to obscene amounts. So why hold back on investing in real estate?
Well, I don't know. It begs the question, what are you doing? And so the people that say, hey, I'm going to wait for prices to go down, or I'm going to wait for, that community that has no HOA, that has estate lots that are a third to a half acre or more, that allow for horses. And you know what? It's an absurd,
You're in the wrong state, unfortunately.
Well, and the challenge that we have seen is, again, the undergirding principle. If somebody rents for 30 years, okay, versus buys one property at $450,000 and just does that over 30 years, what do you think the difference is to their bottom line over that 30 years?
$2 million.
4.5.
4.5 million.
And that's at a 7% interest rate.
Oh my gosh.
So that's already there, okay? So the argument, the undergirding fundamental argument of buy over rent remains true, period. It remains true at 12%. It's $3.8 million, still at a 12% mortgage.
Which is nuts. But people fail to realize your analogy of the grass growing.
Right.
And it's just so frustrating.
So real estate investment, as many people tout in many fields, the science is complete. It's over. It's solved, Real estate investment is a fantastic wealth vehicle. Personal or large-scale investment, any and all of that. Will there be market fluctuation and changes and all of that? Yes. Think about, again, the composition of the state. You go from Salt Lake, the further you go out, you have more distance, you have, less density, you have lower price and all of that. Then what will happen is that will come back in. And as it comes back in, your density, you will build, rather than more horizontal, you'll build more vertically as you get closer to the city. And then that wave will go out again, and it'll go in, and it'll go out, and it'll go in.
That's an interesting way to think of it.
So it is in essence a density harmonic, if you will.
Right.
That will just grow and iterate over time, and old buildings and old estate lots will be raised, and then you'll build apartments and stuff like that.
Were you at the Board of Realtors meeting? It was the forecast breakfast, probably 3 or 4 years ago, where I think it was Lawrence Yoon did the overlay of Long Island, New York, and the Wasatch Front. And it's basic because of our restrictions geographically. We have the mountains and we have the areas we can't build, the Great Salt Lake, the Salt Flats, so on and so forth. They basically mirror each other.
Yeah.
And the population along that same corridor by 2050 was expected to hit the population levels of Long Island, New York at that present time. So like 3-4 years ago.
Sure, it's that density harmonic.
And you think of the freaking price of real estate in Long Island, New York. I mean, it's like insane.
Yeah, it's just natural. Look, people are going to continue to have children. Real estate is going to continue to go up. And if we confront the, what Elon Musk termed our biggest existential crisis is nothing more than population.
We don't have enough, right? We're not having enough.
We can't replace our stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. In which case, if it's an existential crisis, your mortgage is going to be the least of your worries.
Right. Who cares, man? Just sign the note.
Yeah. Or buy more real estate.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? Then it gets back to, hey, buy your plot, your claim, your 5 acres, your 10 acres, your 20 acres, your 50 acres.
Yep. Your eighth of an acre.
Whatever.
Just buy something.
I would recommend to everybody everywhere, it is not an if I should buy or a when I should buy. It is how much I can afford, and it is a temper my expectations. There, years ago, it was you could buy a $300,000 lot, a 4,000 square foot Rambler with a 3-car garage, and get an RV pad and do all of that for under $450,000. Okay,
Right.
You could do that. Now you can buy a condo.
Right. And that house cost you $1.25.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so stop your complaining.
Right.
And buy a condo.
Get in the game.
And then move up. Look, when Babe Ruth started in baseball, okay, salaries were decent or whatever. There is not a baseball player on the planet right now that wishes that they were playing in Babe Ruth's age.
Right.
They make so much freaking money.
Yeah.
So get in the game, buy your real estate, watch the grass grow, or don't, but you're going to have to mow it.
Yep.
And make this first house purchase your 2 to 5 year plan, and then move out and convert that to your first rental, and go and get another one, and then move up and move up. The principle remains the same.
Well, and the crazy thing is the numbers you just ran in 30 years, we're talking multiple millions of dollars. Just buy a house if you don't want the freaking complication.
Yeah.
Like, you can't lose. So what do you think? Were you in business in Utah during the '02 Olympics?
I was not.
No. So
well,
when
I was doing other things. I was selling cars at that time.
Okay, but were you here in Utah?
Yes.
So I was not. I didn't get into the professional world until 2009, and so I don't really understand what the impacts were from that. I understand that the state and the economy and real estate and everything just utterly boomed since then, obviously. What do you think? Like, I think the Olympics coming again in 2034 is so crazily significant. Do you believe that's the case? Is it a huge catalyst
100%.
or am I overselling it?
No, 100%. And I would take advantage not just of the consequences from the Olympics, but the lead up to the Olympics. If you're an investor, I'm casting a wider net. I ain't looking at Utah. I'm looking at the world.
Okay.
And who I'm marketing to.
Right.
Because Utah has always been a fantastic place to live. And to your point, in 2002, it just became revealed to people that were paying attention. It's just not a secret anymore.
Which is what's crazy. Because it's already not a secret, but it's so much... Utah is so much sexier than it was in 2002.
You bet.
So when people come here, it's going to be like lights out. It's kind of like my retirement plan.
Yeah.
I got my house, and I'm like, all right, perfect. The Point Project grow. Olympics coming in the next 10 years. I'll cash out a few $1,000,000 or whatever because I own those properties, and boom.
Yeah, and it's not just for homeowners. It's for businesses.
Yeah.
It's for big businesses. It's for international business. Think about an international business that wants to market a product internationally. Now, they've got an inland port and they've got an international airport that goes all over the world distributing their product.
And a young demographic.
Yes. highly educated, multilingual
Yeah.
populace, safe place to live, exceptional tax atmosphere, forward-thinking infrastructure, limited land, opportunity is knocking.
And like the inland port thing is just crazy because there has not been any sort of significant change to logistics in, I don't even know how many years, but it's decades and decades. This is a huge change. And as I understand it, it's because, like you said, Long Beach, wherever these ports are kind of on the West Coast, I mean, you've got trucks that can't get out for 24 or 48 hours to even hit the road. And in Utah,
You can't even get it off the boat.
Right. And in Utah, my understanding is we can hit 37 of the 50 U.S. states in one business day.
Yeah.
From the inland port. Because part of that's the
That's the
airport
point.
as well.
It's going to be a massive, massive benefit as well for the United States. Look, China just finished a bridge like 5 years early that turned a 2.5 hour, not 2.5, like a 20-hour journey into 2 minutes.
Oh my
across
gosh.
a massive chasm and stuff like that. Think about the impact to their national logistics. The inland port is as much important to our commerce and, frankly, national defense,
Right.
as it is to anything. And that's why these significant economic investments make sense, are required, and put Utah in such a unique and powerful position. To sum it up, if Utah's a stock I buy every day, I buy as much as I can, I buy as much as I can afford, and I own stuff rather than renting it.
Yeah. And don't get fooled by the news that renting is better because it's unaffordable. Like the divergence of mortgage payment versus rent payments. Like, who the hell cares? Because a decade down the road, you can't compare.
Well, in fact, the person that taught me that about the 30 years rent versus own, he is a former economics professor and is now in the Utah legislature.
Oh, wow.
And the premise of his discussion before we went through the numbers was that narrative that maybe it's better to rent, maybe I should do a small,
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not. Own as much real estate as you possibly
Stop watching the
can.
news.
Yeah, well, you have a complicit. I'll give you one last example.
Yeah.
We went to Italy some years ago as a family and learned a lot about the country in talking to our Uber driver.
Mm.
And he talked about, and I'm not casting an aspersion on the country or anything like that. This individual talked about the mafia taking a significant portion off the top of any businesses.
Oh, wow.
And then if they reported income over a certain amount, the Italian taxes were so onerous that it would threaten the entire enterprise, put them out of business. So then what do? Rather than reporting a higher income, they pay employees under the table. What's the net effect of that? The employees receiving monies under the table have no income to report, therefore cannot qualify for a mortgage and own
The ultimate
nothing.
oppression.
It's the ultimate oppression because you are a slave to rent.
That's crazy. That's
you
crazy.
never own anything. And anytime somebody says that the American dream is dying, it only dies if you let it.
Mm-hmm.
If you decide that you want to be consigned to a lifelong of rent, listen to the news. Continue to do it. And if you want to own, call Brock today. Find out what you can qualify for. If you can't qualify, figure out a plan such that you can. Stop drinking multiple Pepsis and wasting your money.
Going out to
left
lunch
and right.
$15-20 a day.
Save.
Yeah.
Make the sacrifices so that you can own. Come up with a plan, whether it takes you a year or a year and a half. But own real estate.
100%.
It will change your life and it will change generations yet unborn.
I love it. Well, that was awesome. I think that's a great closing point. I do want to give everybody, pay attention here because, Jack, I want you to introduce yourself. I know that you are clearly a smart person, but you're also a very innovative and creative business person. So any realtors that are engaging here and listening, I want them to hear this because you have, and homeowners or home buyers, because you have a unique resource within Edge Homes that allows people to understand what your inventory looks like and what's active, what's available, and how they can capitalize on this homeownership game through you specifically.
Sure.
Do you want to sell on that and then give them any other commercial you want so that they can be sure they reach you, give them social media handles, whatever.
Okay, yeah. So I hope the commercial is me. I have been with Edge Homes for over 12 years. I have helped hundreds upon hundreds of clients find a home. I've done transactions as many as 30 plus units in one shot to, home buyers, first-time home buyers, all of that. The challenge that I confronted 4 years ago, particularly for my realtor partners, is how do I communicate instantaneously, always up to date, effectively and thoroughly what I have available. And so I created a system. It is my proprietary system. I'm the only one who has it. I built it. And it allows a realtor, let's say you've got an investor that has an Indian buyer who has the belief of Vastu. Mm-hmm. Okay, there are some specific criteria there. They want homes that are east or north facing. Sometimes you have Asian buyers that believe in numerology. I have to have a certain number in the address. Mm-hmm. Or you have a buyer that says, I am a GC, a general contractor, and I'm going to finish my own basement, but I have to have a home that can accommodate an ADU, an accessory dwelling unit, stuff like that. The system that I have built is better than the MLS for all things Edge Homes. In other words, in 30 seconds, I can send you a link that will have all the east and north-facing townhomes of a specific floor plan with this color cabinets, an 8 in the number, and a walkout basement.
Wow. I didn't even know it was that big.
And I can send that to you, and whether you come to market a week from now, 8 weeks from now, 8 years from now, it will have all of our inventory that qualifies for that criteria, always up to date, right there at your fingertips or right on your phone. So if you want to do things differently, work with Jack. Call me at look me up on the MLS, find me on Facebook, find me on Instagram. I don't do a lot of social media. Why? Because I value this, the personal.
Yep.
The social media to me is blah, 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 blah. Everybody's out there. I get it. Everybody's got something to say. I get it. If you want to do business and you want to know that you are entrusted and competent and earnest and caring and professional hands, work with Jack.
I love it. So how do they call? Call or text seems like the best way to contact you.
Yeah, call me at 801-830-3881. Again, 801-830-3881. Or email me, jack@edgehomes.com. Google me, look up my reviews, find me. But if you want access to the resources that I provide, let's partner. Let's go to work. I promise you that I can make your business explode.
And simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Well, everybody, thank you for tuning in. Please be sure to share this. Connect with Jack. Like, subscribe, do all the things that supports our channel. We would appreciate it, and hopefully you found a ton of value in this. This is very interesting stuff. We have a super mastermind here, Jack Andrews, that shared a lot of very interesting information, and we might even have him back as some of this stuff continues to unfold to share more about what it's doing to the economy and housing in Utah. But thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you for tuning in. For more industry insights, follow us on all platforms at Loans Elevated.
And to get in touch with our team, call or text 801-713-4000 or visit loanselevated.com.